enjoying my time away. I just want to let you know what do I think about the Berlanga versus Canelo fight. It was officially signed for September 14th. I don't know. What do you guys think? But I think that the fight is not a fight worthy of watching. It might be for some people, but for true boxing fans, we want to see in his last fight. But you got to understand, at 175 pounds, he's not as dominant and strong as he is at 168. I think at 168 is where he's going to be more powerful. His power has more is more effective, and he's going to be dominant in that weight class. But he's getting really big for his body, so I feel like he's not going to look the same in the higher weight classes like 175. So David Benavidez, um, even though I didn't think that he looked spectacular in his last fight, he did dominate him and he controlled him, but he didn't really hurt him or knock him down or do anything spectacular. But you got to understand, he's more effective at 168 pounds, and I think that Canelo Alvarez and Benavidez, that's the fight that everybody, the true fans, want to see. And nobody wants to see Berlanga versus Canelo. Come on, what has Berlanga accomplished? I'm not going to say that he hasn't progressed and improved in his last fight. I think he improved from what I saw previously from him. He's better at boxing to an extent, but look at the opponent he had in front of him. Well, he had an undefeated opponent. I think he was in his 30s, and he was able to knock him out. He was able to get a knockout after so many years not having a knockout. And not years, but it felt like years. But after not being the KO artist that he was in the beginning of his career, his first 16 victories by KO against nobodies that we heard of, nobody ranked in the top 10. He hasn't fought nobody ranked in the top 10. And I feel like he hasn't gotten any knockouts until his last fight. He broke the lack of KO streaks, which, all the lackluster performances that he's had before that knockout victory. I think that knockout victory was a good one for him. It showed some progression and some a little bit of versatility, considering that he hasn't shown that in all his fights. All he showed was a one-dimensional approach and just looking for the knockout. He was setting up the knockout in his last fight where he knocked out the opponent. I forgot the opponent's name, but I feel like Berlanga is just trying to cash in for the big money fight because, a lot of people know and understand that real boxing fans know that he doesn't have the boxing skills that he needs to actually get to the next level and fight somebody at the elite status like Canelo. I feel like Canelo is gonna totally wash him and beat him. But if Berlanga surprises me and knocks him down or wins by a miraculously divine intervention from God saying, hey, I want Berlanga to win, but I want Canelo to get old overnight, and for some reason, I don't know. I just think that Canelo Alvarez, he may have slowed down, and he may not be the same Canelo of old. He's not in his prime anymore. I truly believe that he's just good enough to beat people like Munguia at limited opposition like that. Munguia is good, but he's not great. He's not at the level, and he doesn't have the arsenal that Canelo has. I feel like Canelo is flat-footed, but he can box. He can box. He's a little flat-footed and slower now. He used to be faster. He used to be more. He used to show more agility, and now he's more flat-footed. And I feel like Canelo has enough boxing skills to really school Berlanga because Berlanga doesn't know how to deal with boxers. I don't know. I just see that he hasn't been doing too good with boxers, but the puncher's chance is there as far as the power. Berlanga has the puncher's chance, but I just don't think that he has the skill set to actually compete with somebody like Canelo. Canelo Alvarez is, he has so much on his resume. He's fought better fighters in spite of him cherry picking a lot of his fighters in the past few years. And I think that the fighter that he beat that was legitimate was Daniel Jacobs and Golovkin. I feel like Golovkin was a lot older and out of his prime, and those fights were actually more competitive and the fights could have gone either way in one of those two fights. In those two fights, the last fight he definitely won. I think the first fight he lost. The second fight could have went either way, and the third fight he definitely won because he waited for Golovkin to get old, and he got really old. And Canelo kept playing the game about I'm not going to give him a fight. He doesn't deserve to fight me. But the fights wanted to see the rematch right away, and he chose not to because he knew that Golovkin still had a lot left in him. He was waiting for him to get older, and I feel like Canelo is just far too advanced skill-wise for this guy Berlanga. Berlanga, I'm rooting for him. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Boricua, but at the end of the day, I gotta call a spade, and I feel like this is a no frills bootleg Mexico versus Puerto Rico that we're getting in today's times of boxing. Boxing has changed a lot. Everything is just about money. Just because Berlanga has a popular name in New York City and he sells tickets there, and he doesn't have to fight an opponent that is accomplished or beat anybody of any elite status because they already top rank promoted him really good, and they were able to promote him based on those 16 first round knockouts that he got in the beginning of his career. And right after those 16 fights, a lot of his performances were lackluster, and the only one that I say that was decent was his last performance, but he's not consistent, he's not active, and I don't think it's enough for a Canelo. He's good, bro. Berlanga got a chance. You think he has a chance? I think he has a 20% chance, but if he surprises me, I'll be happy if he wins. I'm rooting for the Boricua, but I'm realistic. I just don't see him having enough on his resume. He hasn't fought anybody, and he doesn't have the skill set to compete with somebody like that. If he struggled with those limited opponents when they move and they box, and he's been down by opponents that don't have the same skill set and power that Canelo has. When he fought Cosero or whatever, that Argentinian guy, the Cosero guy was making him look foolish. He was outlanding him, and he even knocked him down. And I just think that he needs more to beat a Canelo. You know why he's doing that? Because he has he's the name fighter. He's the fighter that everybody wants to see as far as the elite fighter that's known, that sells. But his performances have not his performances on pay-per-view have not been like they've been in the past. But he can pick and choose because he knows he's at the end of his career and he wants to make the most money possible and go out with a bang as far as financially and get the most money and less damage in his career by fighting a David Benavidez. He wants to take advantage of the limited opposition that he has available for him that he's picking, because I feel like there's a lot of opposition with David Benavidez, but he's choosing the most limited opponents to make the best, to milk out his career in the last stages where he knows his ability is diminishing and his speed and timing is not the same as it used to be. So, anyway, technical difficulties like always. We always have technical difficulties, but let's just keep on moving. That's the thing. Canelo knows that his speed, his timing, his boxing skills, he still has it, but he's diminishing because he's older. He's not in his prime anymore, so he can't react the same way that he used to react before. He was faster. He was able to capitalize more. So now he has to actually use whatever he has available now as far as ability and speed. Whatever his timing is now is a lot slower than before. So he's taking advantage of that. He's no longer in his prime, but he's still able to do a lot of things and get away with it because if he fights limited opposition. So he's still using all the attributes that he has left, whatever's left of him, and trying to make the most money he can. So that way he ends his career making the most money because he doesn't want to fight David Benavidez right away because he feels like if he fights him, he's going to get hurt and he wants to get compensated the most money. That's why he asked for $200 million, which is crazy, but I don't knock him for doing that. But I just feel like that just shows that he's scared to fight, David Benavidez. He was holding back a lot during his last few fights. Yeah, because he don't have the same stamina anymore. he has to hold back, but he still has enough to get him by, and he still has the power, and he still has the technique of timing you, but he doesn't do it as accurate as he used to because he's no longer in his prime, so his abilities are diminishing. So he has to take advantage in a more, in a different way. Like now that he doesn't have the same reflexes he used to have, he has to react and take advantage of whatever he has in front of him, which are limited opposition. Take advantage of that because he's way more advanced than them, so he can actually still get them out of there or at least beat them in a way where it doesn't, like with the Charlo, he wasn't able to knock him out, but he knocked him down. So it just shows a lot that back in the days, if he would have fought Charlo, he would have actually finished him. If they would have fought at that time, I don't know if I think Charlo. I used to always feel like Charlo would give him a good fight, but Charlo was coming up in weight, so that had a lot to do with Canelo, being more stronger physically. And even though they were the same size in the ring, when you're coming up 3 different weight classes, it's a big difference. And I don't care what anybody says. Any boxer that knows boxing knows that when you're coming from a lower weight classes, like 3 lower weight classes, and you're coming out to fight Canelo, it's going to be a big difference. And it's not the same effect when you get hit by somebody that's physically, actually, naturally in a weight for a long time than you. So I don't think Berlanga deserves this fight. He has not fought anyone to merit a fight with Canelo. I just think that Berlanga is he's not as good as people that think he has a chance to win believe. I just feel like he was promoted good with Top Rank, but then we found out what he was really about after those lackluster performances, and he no longer was able to knock out people like the way he did in his first 16 fights. So that's an excuse. That is an excuse. Okay, it was okay for Canelo to fight Julio Cesar Chavez because he was a Mexican that was beatable. But all of a sudden now, when it comes to David Benavidez, he don't want to fight David Benavidez because he represents Mexico. That's hypocritical. That's hypocritical because he was able to fight Julio Cesar Chavez, and he was Mexican, but he fought a Mexican that he knew he could beat. That's what Canelo does. He picks and chooses. And he also beat Munguia, another Mexican, when he said, he contradicted himself. He said he would never fight a Mexican. Oh, but he chose to fight Munguia as well because he knew that Munguia was not going to be able to beat him. That he picked a fighter that he knew was limited compared to Canelo, and that's why he chose Munguia. So all of a sudden now it's okay to fight a Mexican. Oh, because Munguia is somebody that he'll be able to beat. So that's very hypocritical. That's a lame excuse. That's a lame excuse for him to say that, that he don't fight Mexicans because he represents Mexico. That's an excuse because it was okay for him to fight those inferior boxers that were Mexicans that he was able to beat easily because he knew that he could beat Julio Cesar Chavez. That he was not in his prime. He didn't have the same abilities as Canelo. He knew he would beat Munguia because he knew Munguia was limited compared to him. And that's why he chose him. And he was inexperienced as well. Yeah, boxing is a business. He took the Mexican fans from Chavez when he beat him. Yeah, but look at it. It's a business, but at the same time, you give us what we want. Give the fans what they want. Back in the days, we saw Felix Tito Trinidad versus De La Hoya. That was a fight where both of them were accomplished already. They were both accomplished. Felix Tito Trinidad was an IBF champion who defended his belt 15 times before he fought De La Hoya. And De La Hoya, I think, was a 2-time world champion or 3-time world champion. He was already accomplished. They were both accomplished. They were both in the same weight class. They were both young, in their 20s. So that's the thing. Boxing it's a business, but it's more of a business now because now they're just making fights based on the people's names, how much fans they have. It's not about what they accomplished. Back then in the 90s, it was about what you accomplished, and now it's just becoming like a circus. It's not what people want. People don't want to see Berlanga versus Canelo, but Canelo's not giving the fans what they want. People are going to tune in because it's Puerto Rico versus Mexico, but it's not a legitimate Puerto Rico versus Mexico fight. It's a bootleg version of Puerto Rico versus Mexico because Canelo's way above and more accomplished than Berlanga. Berlanga's not even accomplished. Who's he fought? What fighter, what champion has he beaten? Who has he fought? He just has an undefeated record, and he has a big following, a big buzz based on knocking out some unknowns and some bums nobody knows about. He hasn't fought anybody. I'm not saying that I'm not rooting for him. That, I'm rooting for Berlanga to win, but I highly doubt he's gonna win. He can't beat Canelo. Canelo's on a different level. I don't care how much he slowed down. Canelo is still above Berlanga in many ways. He still has a lot of experience. He knows what to do with somebody like Berlanga that doesn't know how to box. He has bad footwork. He has no footwork. There's no way that he can beat Canelo. I doubt he does many sales on this fight. I don't know. He might do some decent sales, but he's gonna compete, I think, with the UFC. I don't know. De La Hoya was throwing jabs at Canelo. He's competing with the UFC, and it was also mentioned that Canelo, the fight with Berlanga, was not going to be an undisputed fight. It wasn't going to be 4 belts. It was going to be 3 because he had to defend the belt against Skull, the number 1 contender that nobody knows about. But Canelo and his team, somebody chose to pay him step aside money so they can make it a 4 belt undisputed championship. So they paid Skull with the intentions of that if he takes the step aside money, that Skull can actually eventually fight Canelo after this fight with Berlanga and Canelo. So it's a lot of politics. Yeah, boxing is politics, man. And I doubt he's gonna make sales, but not like the way that he usually used to make when he was on top of his game. Right now Canelo's just taking money fights. He's been doing it for a while, avoiding David Benavidez, because let's face it, David Benavidez will destroy Canelo. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what they say about his last performance when he fought on 175. You got to understand, his punches are not that effective at 175. His punches are more effective at 168 with David Benavidez. He is more powerful and more effective with his punches at 168. David Benavidez will beat Canelo, but since Canelo's avoiding a fight with him because Canelo knows that he wants to take the easiest fights with the biggest money possible, like Berlanga, he feels like he has a name that sells, but it doesn't mean that he's an elite status boxer. He has not accomplished anything. He hasn't fought any big names. He hasn't fought anybody in the top 10. Why do they make the Canelo versus Berlanga fight? Because they know that Puerto Rico versus Mexico will sell. But will it sell the way it should? I don't think so. But it's going to make some money because Puerto Rico versus Mexico always rings a bell. And I feel like Canelo's doing that based on him being easy opposition and easy work for him to knock out. Because I think Berlanga was slightly better than Munguia. Even though Munguia fought better fighters. And he has victories over better fighters than Berlanga. That's without question. But I felt like Berlanga would have a better chance at beating Munguia if they was to ever fight, because they were kind of like mostly evenly matched in some way. But I think Munguia fought the better opposition. That's what I think. And I feel like not Munguia, I don't want to talk about Munguia. The Canelo Alvarez knows what he's doing. He's a businessman. All these boxers now, they're just businessmen. They're not even boxers. Like the way they choose to make fights, they don't do it for the fans. They do it for their wallet. And I understand it's a business, but be authentic. Be a fighter that likes the glory and the respect, and to accomplish something in an authentic way where we could say, wow, he fought the best and he beat the best and he wasn't scared to fight nobody. You already got money. Why you want, instead of it's like saying I got $1 billion, but I want $4 billion. Like, it's just greed. It's just greed. Like, you don't need, not all money's good money. You don't need more money just to have more money. As long as you do enough with the money that you have and you know how to use your money wisely, you shouldn't be greedy and say, oh, I have $2 billion, but I want $2 more billion. Like, that's just an example. Like, I just feel like the principles are not there. The fighters are not putting the fans first. I understand you got a family and you got to think about your future and go out, safe and not get hurt. But come on, you're in a deadly sport. You're in a boxing sport that you chose to be in. If you chose to be in a sport, if you're really supposed to be the best of the best, then you should just prove it. Put it on the line against the so-called best. Canelo should do it against David Benavidez. But that's the sport that he signed up for. So you're just fighting for the money and being a fake champion, because that's what Canelo's doing now. He's being a fake champion. He's fighting people that he knows he can beat, that are not established, that are not accomplished, just because they have fame. Their name brings some fame. They're renowned because of the name, but they haven't fought anybody that was actually renowned or established or an elite champion. Berlanga never did that. Berlanga hasn't fought anybody in the top 10. His last fight, he's progressed, he's improved. He showed a little bit of a good boxing, setting up the punch, but it was against a limited guy, and it wasn't like he was impressing me like he did something totally like a 360. Like, he still has a lot of work, man. Berlanga doesn't use his legs right. If he has a fight with Canelo, Canelo's gonna school him. Canelo's gonna see everything that he does, gonna see it from a mile away, and he don't have to do much because he has experience and he still has the skill and the timing and the power to like set up Berlanga. He doesn't have the legs like the way he used to, but he has enough in the tank to actually pull it off. You know, to defeat Berlanga and embarrass him, because he's not a dumb fighter. You know, let's just face it. I'm not a big fan of Canelo, but he's not a dumb fighter. Like, he has boxing ability, but he's limited when it comes to like a boxer that knows how to box and use their legs. Canelo's flat-footed too in many ways, but he can box, but he hasn't been able to box like in his last few fights because he's not as fast. His stamina, he always has stamina issues. Canelo always has stamina issues, but now he has even more stamina issues because he's older. So people look at those variables and say, oh, you know, he has stamina issues. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's more flat-footed. He doesn't box the way he used to. But even with all that said, Canelo still outclasses Berlanga. Like, if Berlanga surprises me and beats Canelo and catches him, I respect to him. If he shows something different than he showed in his last previous fights, like his last previous fight, he showed that he could box a little bit, but it wasn't like a 360. I still saw like a lot of holes in his game. He was setting up the punches. He was in his last fight, Berlanga, and he got the knockout. But the opposition the guy was 33 years old. It was a limited opposition. It wasn't like a Canelo, but he showed some growth. He did show some growth. I'm not gonna say he didn't. But Berlanga needs a lot more than just power to beat Canelo. I doubt he does many. So I already read that. Boxing is a business. He took the Mexicans from family business. He doesn't want to lose the fans. Okay, it's a business. Yeah, but either or, he already established his legacy. If he loses to David Benavidez, that's just how it is. Usually the young fighter beats the old fighter. The young fighter that's coming up, that's knocking everybody out, that everybody's talking about, is usually the one that beats the old fighter. That's the established fighter like Canelo is the one that loses to the young fighter coming up, because Canelo is not any younger. He's not getting any younger. He's gonna lose to Benavidez if they fight, and I hope they do that fight. But if they keep waiting to make that fight, Canelo's gonna wind up in a wheelchair if he fights David. By the time he gets to fight David Benavidez, because he's just not getting any younger, and he's not gonna get any better. He's just where he's at right now. Canelo is just where he's at right now, and that's the best against any fighter like Berlanga. He's always gonna outclass somebody like that, or Munguia. It's just enough to beat guys like that, but it's not enough to beat guys like Crawford. You know, Crawford will come up and wait and fight somebody like Canelo. I still give Crawford a good chance to beat him, but I think it's still risky because the weight difference. But Crawford, how much does he have left? Eddie Hearns is banking on his fighter to beat him in the upcoming fight with them when they fight in August. So I don't know. I don't like Eddie Hearns the way he operates. He's all about his fighter. You know, so you know, I don't want to talk about Matias. I already told you how I feel about that. But I feel like the fight with Pitbull Cruz is gonna be interesting too when he fights. You know, when he fights the guy that's gonna fight him, and I feel like that's gonna be a really good fight. that fight could go either way, but I think Pitbull Cruz is gonna win, but he could lose because he's fighting a good fighter. But I just want to end this video like this, saying subscribe to my YouTube, my Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe to my boxing channel. Subscribe to my music. Check out my music. The Prodigy Valviso Campos, The Monumental Truth. Check out my single Unite the Tribes by Tony Also, TonyAlso. All my music is on all major platforms. I got hip hop, R&B, dance music. I got a little bit of everything. I got a new album called The Essence of Who I Am that is coming out real soon, dedicated to my mother. It's just an album that speaks about truth. It's powerful. And check out my single, Cansado del Engaño. It's about what's going on in Puerto Rico, and they're going to play it in the elections in Puerto Rico in November. It's to go against the grain with the political status that's going on in Puerto Rico with the politicians, taking advantage of the tax exemptions, the people that are coming in, the investors, etc., and getting rid of Act 22 and Act 60 and making Puerto Rico a sovereign nation. And support Eliseo Molina. He's the man. He's the man right now. Shout out to all my family in Puerto Rico. Check out my subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. You know how we do. Yes, Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe. Press that subscribe button. I love you guys. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for tuning in. Yep, I appreciate you, Thug Life. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Much respect. Mad love to all of you who tuned in. And don't forget, check out my music on Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, all major platforms. You could purchase it if you want. I got hip hop and R&B, and my new album, The Essence of Who I Am, is going to be a lot of Afro beats, dance, good soulful music, R&B, and music dedicated to the truth and what my mother taught me about truth, and an album that has like 4 songs dedicated to her. It's like Afro beats, everything. Very soulful. It's just like honoring what she taught me, how to be a man of integrity, and talk about different subjects in the album. But it's all singing. I only rap on one song, but the whole album is 12 songs, 11 songs, and it's just a very soulful, melodic, and dance orientated with versatile music like Afro beats, R&B, just a lot of different styles, dance, house music. I got a famous person who's going to feature with me on the album. I don't want to say the name yet, but you will find out real soon. So yeah, tune into my channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. One love. Check out the fights. I got more news for you guys. One love.